Imagine this scenario. You meet someone and you're super excited. And first, they're super charming. There's a lot of attention thrown your way. You're getting a lot of compliments. You go on a couple dates. And then all of a sudden, the availability just drops off. And you can't tell if they like you or not. And over the next couple weeks, you're getting more and more anxious about whether this person likes you or not. You're unclear if they want to continue conversation because they don't text you back right away, but they do eventually text you. And you notice that your nervous system is just in a total state of distress all the time. You can't stop thinking about this person. And at the same time, you're totally frustrated by it. And you're like, why am I sticking around for someone who is breadcrumbing me? Which is what today's episode is all about. My name is Amaya Shiva, and I'm a dating and relationship coach, and I help conscious men and women go from drained and frustrated in their sex and intimate lives to deeply connected, owning their worth, and having great sex as a result. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you stay tuned and like and subscribe to this channel or podcast. Today's topic of conversation is, are you getting breadcrumbed? Do you keep falling into the same old pattern and scenario of being in relationship with people who don't fully meet your needs? And you know that they're doing that, but you can't seem to break the cycle. Or are you even wondering, am I getting breadcrumbed? And how can I tell? Today, I'm going to share with you the real reason breadcrumbing keeps showing up in your life, signs of breadcrumbing, and what you can do about it so you can start cultivating sexy, secure attachment that leaves you feeling safe, good, and in healthy relationships long term. So what is breadcrumbing and why should you care? Well, breadcrumbing is when somebody gives you just enough attention that you stick around, but you're never full. Like you're never satisfied. You never feel fully secure in the relationship. And you're always kind of wondering, do they like me? Do they like me? Then they'll do something to kind of nourish the connection, but it's not enough to really sustain it. And ultimately, you find that you struggle with feelings of low self-worth. You struggle with feelings of confusion, and you don't know why this keeps happening to you, right? First of all, what are some actual examples of breadcrumbing and how that can show up in your dating and intimate life? And honestly, you can be married to somebody that's breadcrumbing. It's not just limited to new people, right? This can be happening in a longer term partnership as well. So some examples of behaviors of people who breadcrumb, they respond days later to your texts. Like they are always super slow. They don't get back to you in a timely fashion. And you cannot rely on them to answer you promptly, right? Another thing that people do when they're breadcrumbing you, they'll make plans with you and then cancel last minute. So you never know if they're actually going to follow through. Anytime you make plans, your nervous system is a little bit on edge because you're like, I don't know if they're going to follow through or not. And that feels pretty bad. People who breadcrumb you will often be available at weird times or times when like they know you're actually not. So maybe they aren't available until all of a sudden you're at work or with a client. And then they're like, hey, are you free right now? And you're like, no, because I have a job and a career and you know that. So they might strategically invite you at times they know you cannot come to give the illusion of wanting to spend time with you. People who breadcrumb have zero consistency with availability, right? Now, there are other reasons this can happen. And if you really want to spend time with someone, you will make yourself available. If you really want it, there's always a way, right? And lastly, people who breadcrumb you will always prioritize everything else over you. And whether it's work, whether it's other people, whether it's the gym, like you're last on the list. Right when you're completely done with it and you're fed up and you're like, fuck this, then out of nowhere, They'll do something really sweet. They'll have some big romantic gesture. They'll say, hey, let's spend the whole day together. Let's go on a bike ride and then I'll take you out to dinner. And it kind of re-inspires you. But it's infrequent and few and far between, right? So this is breadcrumbing. And the ways that you can tell from your own perspective if you're being breadcrumbed is really about how you feel. Like if you notice that you are in a state of high alert and you're always like looking, oh, did they text me back? Oh, did they finally tell me? You know, that's a good sign that this is happening to you, because people who want to spend time with you are going to get back to you more quickly, right? You're not going to be feeling this like, oh, I just don't know, right? There's going to be more of a certainty. And another way to tell is if you express your needs and they don't meet them, right? Like you tell them, hey, I actually need this for my personal safety, for my personal security, and so that I can feel good and confident in our relationship, and they don't meet you. That's a good sign they're not able to, right? And so beyond getting breadcrumbed, you have to ask yourself, why are you sticking around with people who breadcrumb you in the first place? Like, what is it about these people that leaves you hanging on, even though if you were to describe your ideal relationship, it would include none of this? I'm going to tell you that in my experience working with hundreds of people from around the world, it's really two main causes, right? Number one is you are dealing with an insecure attachment style and you are confusing, let this land, you are confusing a dysregulated nervous system for attraction. Okay? Because what can happen, especially for anxiously attached people, is that a part of you believes that there is nobody else. And this is just a story, but there's a subconscious belief, like you may have had a very lonely childhood. You may have had to compromise your needs as a kid in order to get love and affection. And so you learned this was the way, or maybe one of your parents modeled that, right? And so you internalize, okay, there's not going to be another person. I have to accept what's being given to me because no one else is coming. And if I don't take this, that's the end of it. I'm never going to have another chance, right? This is the kind of underlying narrative, the subconscious limiting belief that is often running in the background. And it's often that people are very lonely, which in itself is a very dangerous place to date from. And I'm going to touch on that in just a moment and what you can do about it. So again, if you are anxiously attached, then you are the kind of person who's most likely to get into a relationship with someone who breadcrumbs, because people who are securely attached will quickly see when somebody is emotionally unavailable. And one of the superpowers and beautiful aspects of our anxiously attached friends is that you can oversee the good in others, and you can misread very small acts as meaning something major. And it's often to your own detriment and not actually coming from a healthy place, right? It's not coming from a place of like, yes, the world is great. It's coming from a place of, well, I guess that's good enough because that's as good as it's going to get for me. When I'm working with clients on this, we do a lot of deep inner child work. We do a lot of healing of old stories and retraining of the nervous system so that when these scenarios come up again, because you've watched my videos before, you'll know that the dating pool is inherently more full of avoidant people, because those are the people who stay single and those are the people who breadcrumb. So if you are dating, you have a much higher chance of bumping into that. And what we work on is helping you know what to do so that you can say, no, I'm not available for this because I know my worth. I know what I want. And if you can't give it to me, no worries. Bless your heart. Blessings to you. I'm moving on. Because at the end of the day, the real reason people breadcrumb you is that you allow it. And I say that not from a place of judgment. I say it with so much compassion because I used to be there. Like I had so many boyfriends who were just not great. They were not loving to me. They were not good to me. And I was dealing with this limiting belief that this was as good as it was going to get. And I was terrified to lose them because I thought it would mean the end of my social life, the end of my worth and value. So, you know, there is a deeper narrative that gets to be healed here. And as long as you are allowing people to treat you that way, they will continue to show up in your field. So instead of placing the blame or the impetus on these people who breadcrumb, don't do that. That's a waste of your time. You cannot control other people. You can only be responsible for yourself. And you can do this in a kind way, a loving way to you, and that is kind and compassionate to those other people without tolerating their bullshit, right? Because you don't have to put up with that. There is someone else. Every single time in my life that I have really wanted partnership, it has evaded me. And as soon as I didn't want it anymore, because I was so full on my friendships, on having multiple dates, on all the things that I desired, like flowing in my life, that I didn't even think about it, that's when the person would show up. And so what puts you at greater risk of breadcrumbing besides an anxious attachment style? Well, feeling lonely, right? If you are dating people from a place of there is nobody and I need someone right now, I need someone to fulfill me, to fulfill the space, you're much more likely to engage in tolerating behaviors of breadcrumbing and behaviors that you don't like. And you're much more likely to not speak your needs because there's a part of you that may be feeling scared that you're going to be alone forever if you don't accept this person, right? It's just a story that your nervous system tells you, and that doesn't make it any less real. That doesn't make the experience any less powerful, and it doesn't diminish its impact in your body and your life. So what can you do in this scenario? How can you build in so much love and community into your life that you are not susceptible to breadcrumbing anymore, and that you are so clear when somebody comes along, when they're not calling you back, when they're not taking care of you in the way you desire, especially after you've expressed it, because that's another responsibility. You have to share with people how you desire to be cared for. The best thing you can do is to enrich your life with other community and to enrich your life by giving back in some way. So when we don't feel like we have anything meaningful to give to the world, this is when you'll start pleasure seeking. Like I've noticed it in my own life. Like in my early 20s, I had a lot of anxiety. I had a lot of depression that made it really hard for me to function. And because of that, I wasn't living my purpose. I wasn't connecting with mentors. I wasn't doing much in my life at all because I didn't have the capacity. And so I would cover it up by playing, by going out to shows and partying all the time. And it wasn't from a healthy place. And the more that I got tuned in and I got tapped into what I'm here to do, who I'm here to serve, the more that fell away, and the more like people that I used to only dream about coming into my field were suddenly there in abundance, right? Because I wasn't focused on it. I wasn't focused on the scarcity. You know, it's the same principle of a watched pot never boils. Same with dating and relationship, right? If you are out there and you're just like, where's my person? Is that my person? Is that my person? It's going to feel like forever until they get there. You know, it's the marshmallow test. Have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen the video of the marshmallow test where, you know, they did an experiment where they would sit little kids in front of a marshmallow and leave the room and say, okay, if you don't eat this marshmallow, you can have 2 when I come back. And you know who succeeded? The kids who distracted themselves, the kids who put their energy and attention somewhere else besides the single marshmallow were the ones who were able to wait and then get the double reward versus the kids who did nothing and just looked at the marshmallow would very quickly put it in their mouth and miss out on the opportunity to have twice as much reward. So same goes for adults. We are not different. We are all big kids walking around in older bodies, and making sure that you have other community, other playtime, and you're not relying on one person to fill all your needs is absolutely a critical component of getting out of the breadcrumbing cycle. And lastly, get support. Look, I kid you not, it took me 20 years to figure this out on my own. But if I had had me 20 years ago, I could have saved myself 2 decades of struggle and strife, right? So don't waste time, right? Use your resources to invest in your own well-being. I'm telling you, this is the only way to do it. Because you are worth it. You are worthy of this. If you're stuck in these kinds of cycles, it's because there are subconscious limiting beliefs around self-worth lingering in your system that are ready to be cleared, that are ready to be uprooted. And that is absolutely possible with someone like me as your guide. Okay, let me know what's landing in the comments below. And if you are ready to transform this in your life so that you don't get breadcrumbed again, or if you do, you know what to do about it very quickly. All you have to do is click the link below on my YouTube channel to book a 30-minute consult with me, or you can find more information about what I do at amayashiva.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you have a blessed day full of sandwiches and toast instead of breadcrumbs. Mwah.